Welcome back, Nicolantis Comic Corner, Classic Size Non-Classics. This is episode number 804 and Doubleshot number... I think I might have screwed up on Doubleshots. Yeah, I think I did. This is actually Doubleshot number 698. Yep. I have two DC trades. They're all Batman Superman related trades. First up, it is Detective Comics Volume 7, Batmen Eternal. This is the final trade collecting James Tynion IV's run for the book. I say final run because he left after the last issue was released. Yes. The issues this one collects. It is 975 to 981. Yes, and also in the pages of Batwoman, yeah, what happens in that book loosely ties what happens in here. Mostly put, the Batman program, or they call it the Night Protocol, has been shut down. Yep, the team has been officially disbanded, and mostly put, this whole storyline is just wrapping up pretty much Tynion's run. There's like really no major villain in this whole run. It's basically because Tynion was leaving, so let's just disband the team he pretty much formed at the start of this run back in issue number 937. Yes. So after a 2-year run, and I think it was like 40, after 2 years and 45 issues, he ends his run. Yep, he ended his run. And mostly put, Batwoman is no longer on the team. She's officially been removed, along with Azrael and Batwing. Now, after the storyline, they do pretty much give these people a good send-off. Batwoman, of course, will continue briefly in her own solo title before it's since been discontinued because the book just ended. I have no idea why the book ended for. But what about the rest of the team? Well, Azrael got moved over just like Odyssey, which I'm surprised he got moved over anyways. In the case of Tim Drake and Stephanie Brown, these two were effectively retired. Yes, they were in fact retired. And they've driven off someplace. As far as I know, they have not currently shown up since then. As for, what about Cassandra Cain, aka Orphan? She's become part of Leslie Tompkins' Free Clinic. And she did stay on for the next arc by Brian Hill. She's now going to move over to Batman and the Outsiders. Yep. And simply put, like right after the next arc, this book becomes a Batman solo book again for the first time in 2 years. Yep. And also, despite the fact that Batwoman clearly killed Clayface in the last arc, Clayface is alive and well. Yep. The Batfry, which is basically the headquarters of the Gotham Knights. The building is still there. It's not been destroyed. It's just, well... And of course, this whole thing... They also reveal some really neat things in here, like the guy who is technically Anarchy. Actually, it's not it's Second Anarchy. Yeah, Second Anarchy. The one who was also the General... And actually, not the General. He was also Red Robin. In previous continuity, he was the first person to take identity. And of course, Jason Tyler, of course, Tim Drake. Yeah, he reveals to Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown that in the pre-Flashpoint timeline, they were Batgirls. Yep, they were. I thought it was quite interesting, the fact that somehow, and here's the thing, he got his hands on the future Tim Drake's technology. Yeah, simply put, the whole thing with him, yeah, Tim Drake, the evil Tim Drake from the future, left behind a bunch of tech lying around. He just picked it up and just did his own thing with it. After this, pretty much the guy is never seen again. But as for this run as a whole, it's a pretty good run. I didn't care for what he did with Stephanie Brown. Of course, prior to this arc, she had not done much of anything. Yeah, ever since the Victim Syndicate storyline, she hasn't done really all that much. I mean, after Tim Drake came back, yeah, she popped up a few times, didn't do anything much of note. Here, she just basically just lying in her apartment, just drinking soda, And then Batman's like, we need your help. Oh yeah, and also, I thought this was really neat for Tynion to do. He brought in the freaking OMAC program. Yeah. And turned everybody into the blue OMACs. Yeah, from Infinite Crisis. I thought that was a really neat callback to that. Excuse me. I should also point out, though, this cover. This cover is clearly kind of basically, well, it's taking the original cover and having the characters all leave. Now, as for the concept when this run first started, it was an interesting concept, Batman having his own strike team in the pages of Detective Comics. It was an original idea, and then Tynion decided to leave. I even love the logo for the thing. The logo is fantastic for Detective Comics in this run. Yeah, it's very reminiscent of when Scott Snyder was on the book. Yeah, that's one thing I praise with this particular era, is the fact that the Comics logo is really, I love this font, it's really damn good. And of course, Eddie Burrows just has to come back to finish this run. After all, he was the original artist in this run, so why not bring him back? But he's not the only artist in this run. Oh yeah, oh no, he isn't. The other artists are, besides Eddie Burrows, Javier Fuentes, Alvaro Martinez, Felipe Barnos, Scott Eden, Ralph Fernandez, Eber Ferreira, and Wayne Future. The cover art is done by Eddie Burrows, Eber Future, and Andrea Lucas. Yeah. By far a really good storyline and a great way to end this particular run. 9.5 out of 10. My final thoughts on that run? It was a good run. Didn't care what he did with Stephanie Brown, but it was a fantastic run altogether. Great nods to classic Batman continuity. That's one thing I appreciate for Tynion to do, after all, because he was basically tutored by Scott Snyder, because he's mentioned this. He kind of treated Tynion as his own personal apprentice. Now, when I originally heard 2 years ago that he was taking over Detective Comics, I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I mean, Scott Snyder, I heard that Scott Snyder was not going to do this book because he technically has already done this book already, because he did the awesome Black Mirror storyline. So he probably wanted to move away from it. He probably wanted to do this own thing and All-Star Batman. Fine. Sad to see him go, but now the book is under the tutelage, is now under the grasp of James Robinson. Yep. Which I'm looking forward to reviewing the first trade when that comes out. Alright, next up is another trade that ends another era, another book. This is Action Comics, Volume 5, Booster Shot, collecting issues, Action Comics 983 to 989, plus a story from Action Comics Special Number 1. Here's the thing about this storyline. The first half of this thing is written and drawn by Dan Jurgens. And I gotta say, not a bad idea for him to do. After all, he did, in fact, has done this before back in the 90s. If you read any Superman comic that came out period of like 1990 about 1999, you can expect about 50% of the time him drawing the artwork. Though halfway through the storyline, Breakboot took over because the other artists are Noah Rampant and Will Conrad. The biggest thing about the storyline is the return of Booster Gold. Yep, Booster Gold's back. For the first time since Convergence. Yes, first time since Convergence he's actually shown up. The whole point of this storyline is to kind of explain what happened in the pages of Superman Reborn when Mr. Oz was revealed to be Jor-El. And Superman's like, how can my father be alive? He died when Krypton was destroyed. I mean, he went back in time. Of course, I love time travel stuff when it comes to this. And of course, he had to steal cosmic travel and do it. And of course, Flash makes a couple guest appearances in here. And of course, after the storyline, the next time Booster Gold shows up, pages of Batman in the storyline, The Gift. Though the storyline itself is actually wrapped up by issue number 998, 999 is just a standalone issue. Also, there's even a B-plot in here. Oh yes, there is a B-plot. What is the B-plot? General Lane has been basically taken captive while going behind enemy lines. So Lois goes to rescue him. And John Kent, her son John, tags along. And of course, John gets to meet his other grandfather for the very first time. Yep. And of course, the last issue, apparently he's the way that Dan Jurgens writes General Lane, he still doesn't like Kent. After all this time, which is still kind of consistent with his character. I mean, he knows that his daughter loves this man, but he still doesn't trust him at all, despite the fact the man made him a grandfather. Though it's kind of explained pre-Flashpoint that this would have been normally impossible due to their biology being so different. But yet we have John Kent, a half Kryptonian, half human. Yep. And what's the Action Comics story? Well, it's just the last will and testament of Lex Luthor, where Superman fights Lex Luthor in the future, who dies during the battle. We also even have appearance by General Zod. Yep, he shows up in here, along with the Eradicator. Yep, shows up in here as well, though it's the futuristic version of him. I gotta say, this was a fantastic storyline. Great way to end Dan Jurgens' run. Yes, his run actually ended. I mean, if you look at the trades-wise, how many trades to collect this whole run, there's only 6. Yeah, the 5 volumes of this, plus Superman Reborn. And that's it. Yeah, that is it. It's kind of weird, though, they didn't throw in his one story he did for Action Comics 1000. I'm not sure what that is. Anyways, yeah. No surprise they threw that in. I was hoping they would, but they never did. Nope, never did. I'm going to give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. It's really good. Like in the case of the telecoms, let me get my final thoughts on Dan Jurgens' run. This run is fantastic. I never felt disappointed in how any of the characters were written in this whole entire run. This run started with issue number 957, and it wrapped up. Actually, Detective Comics was 939. This one was 957, and wrapped up with issue number 999. Technically, overall, this whole run was about, I think it was about 43 issues overall, and this is just in 2 years. Well, 44 if you include his one story from Action Comics 1000. And did he produce there wasn't an annual that came out this particular run? As far as I know, no. Surprisingly, there was not an annual. Detective Comics annual, but not this one for some reason, which I thought was a little weird. I don't really know why they never included an annual with this particular run. It's particularly very weird. But the special was meant to be a conclusion to this particular run. Yeah, Superman had the same thing. Tomasi wrote the special for that one as well. Though he also put out, I think it was about 2 annuals. Yeah, at least did something for that. Jurgens' run basically, even though that his was basically kind of a love letter to basically a lot of like classic 90s Superman. Well, there's a kind of a reason for that. He wrote a lot of 90s Superman. Yep. And of course, having Booster Gold show up is a fantastic, brilliant stroke of genius because he created this character back in the 1980s. And believe it or not, this character's only been around for a good, I think it's been like 31 years. Yes, at least 31 years, exactly. Because he made his debut in the late 1980s. Yep. They kind of loosely explain the guy's Booster Gold's a little bit of his backstory. Yeah. And at least Superman's familiar with him. Probably because he merged 2 timelines into one. There's that. But as for post-Flashpoint Superman, as far as I know, prior to Convergence, he never encountered Superman before at all. Nope, he never did. Booster Gold knew of Superman, but he never popped up in the book. Booster Gold himself, if you look at him prior to Convergence, the guy didn't show up all that much. I mean, he showed up in Justice League International, and he showed up in Blue Beetle. And after that, he disappeared. Wasn't show up again until like, I think it was Futures in one shot. Then he showed up Convergence, and then of course he showed up here. Though when he showed up here, it was roughly like, I'd say about 3 years since his last known appearance. Yeah, it only been 3 years. And it's great whenever he shows up because he's such a fantastic character. Also, I gotta praise Jurgens for putting him in his classic suit. The one that made his debut in back in Booster Gold #1 from the 80s. Yep. But yeah, fantastic story, fantastic issues, and I love this run for Dan Jurgens' run for Action Comics. I'm looking forward to Tivia's review of this particular trade. Yeah, I'm sure he probably got these two trades at some point. I know he owns the Deluxe edition of Action Comics. I think he owns the first one. I don't know the second one yet, but yeah. Though in the case of that one, it did fix the problem with the trades, where the second volume collected Justice League number 52, where that was actually a prelude to this run. It should have been collected in the first trade, but it wasn't. The Deluxe edition, from what I've heard from Tibia, they actually fixed that, putting that issue first, then having all the issues of Action Comics. But one thing about the trades for Action Comics, they tend to put a lot of issues in these trades. These trades are really thick. Yep. That was one thing I thought was a little weird about this particular run, was that if you look at a lot of the books, they take like 8 or 9 issues at half the time anyways. Yeah, they're really, really long. I mean, you look at this trade. This trade collects like a good 8 issues. Yeah, 8. Probably because the storyline was very long. Yep. Otherwise, though, that's it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my next episode, which is going to be episode number 805 and Doubleshot number 699. Okay? But to the next review. Bye.